The choice of the heart dancing together! Hi, honey, Tanya said as she walked into the living room. I had gotten home a few minutes earlier and sat sipping a cool beer and trying not to let the news bore me. Hello to you, beautiful, I smiled back. I have some news tonight. She blushed as she put her purse down and started sorting through the mail on her desk. The ladies at work decided to go to a dance this Friday and I was invited to join. Dancing wasn't my favorite pastime, but Tanya seemed excited and I was always looking for something we could do together, so I immediately decided to join in. We've been married for 22 years. The kids are grown, we have lots of money, good jobs, and good friends. It's fair to say that since the kids are gone, we've become a little less passionate about each other as a couple. Where we always had family gatherings when the kids were growing up, or even backyard parties in the neighborhood. Those events are long gone, and now we're somehow used to the boring but safe routine of work and home life. So when Tanya mentioned a night out, I immediately decided to make an effort to give her a good time that we hadn't had in a long time. That's good news, I said, fully confident that I would have a hot night with my wife after the party. How many of us are there and where are we headed? Her face stretched and she looked at me as if she couldn't have married a sillier man. Not us, silly! Yay! Husbands aren't invited. She said it in a tone that seemed a little harsh, wagging her finger at me. This is a night just for us girls to dance and let our hair down. You'll be fine. I bet you won't even miss me. She averted her gaze and added, You pay so little attention to me as it is. Then looked up and gave me her best charming smile. I said, maybe you and the guys can play poker or something so you won't be lonely. She smiled and pulled a bottle of Chardonnay out of the fridge. I grabbed a glass and took the bottle from Tony and poured her a drink. I think she noticed my face darken and express some consternation. What's wrong? I thought you'd be glad I was spending time with the girls. Now that you mention it, I actually have something to say. Come on, let's go sit on the deck. Could you spare a few minutes for me? I asked. Okay, but I hope you're not going to tell me I can't go. I'm old enough for you to tell me what I can and can't do. You know that. I held up my hands in supplication. I smelled her stupid friend Ginny behind it, but I decided to leave it alone for now. No, if I wanted her to listen to me, then I had to be calm and persuasive enough to compete with Ginny's manic emotions. A little more about her later, but suffice it to say that Ginny likes to have fun and doesn't care too much about who gets in her way. No, I wouldn't order you to stay home. I've never been that kind of guy, so I'm not going to start now. However, I do have a few issues I'd like to bring up, and I'm asking you to hear me out. I'll do the same for you later. I looked at her for a moment before continuing. I'm always here to hear you out, Tom, she replied, and I caught a hint of sarcasm. Thank you, Tanya, I replied. I looked at Tanya for a long moment and took a breath before I began. I tried to speak in a steady voice and tried to keep my emotions under control. I'm an engineer for a large aerospace company, and I often have to get the attention of clients, so I knew how to address an audience, even if they weren't receptive. Right now, the look on Tony's face could have rivaled any skeptical client I'd ever negotiated with. I might have been angry, but I had something important to convey to my wife, and I wanted to do it right. I was very happy to hear your news when you first arrived. You know dancing isn't at the top of my list, but I was excited about how happy you were, and I couldn't wait to join in and start planning a date night. But then you told me that I wasn't invited and that you didn't want me there. I see it as a decision when you choose your friends over me, and that, well, for lack of a better word, hurts. Right now, Tom, you're just being stupid. It's just dancing with girls, and that's no reason to cry loudly. I don't choose them over you. Don't be so touchy. Again, I just sat quietly for a while. Just hear me out. I'm not being touchy. I just have a few comments, hear them out, and then we can have dinner. She stopped talking and looked at me with a mixture of irritation and impatience. Tanya, When you accept an invitation to go dancing with your girlfriends, an invitation that specifically excludes me, you're actually choosing your girlfriends over me. She started to protest, but I beckoned again, and she stopped herself before she started. Tanya, can you ever remember an occasion when I came home from work and told you that I wasn't just going to a guy's party and that I was going to, as you suggest, play poker or go to a sports bar with a group of guys? In fact, I wonder how the conversation would go if I announced that me and the guys were going to kick ass at a dance club. She held her tongue, and I continued. The answer is that I've never done that, and I have a good reason for it. My reason is that I prefer to spend my time with you. You will always have the lion's share of my time and attention, and my friends can take what's left. We sat in silence for a while before I asked, how many ladies are going? Are any of them married, or do they have boyfriends who aren't invited either? It's going to be me and 3 other girls. 2 are married, and 1 has a boyfriend, and no, they aren't invited either. She said this with a tinge of anger that was not warranted. I ignored the blow and started again. So, I guess you're going to one of the fancy dance clubs downtown, or maybe even a club. She smiled and nodded. You'll be dressing up, won't you? Little black dress, sneaker shoes, hair, makeup? Sure. You know I always want to look good and make you proud of me. What's wrong with that? Tanya was clearly challenging me. Nothing at all, Tanya, I replied. I like it when you dress up for me, and I've always been proud of you, but like you said, I wasn't invited, and you don't want me there, so it's unlikely you'll dress up for me, is it? In fact, I'm having a hard time remembering the last time we dressed up and went out. Maybe it was for a Christmas party. Anyway, I continued before Tanya could try to answer, you're really not dressing up for me because I won't be there to admire you. She tried to start talking, but I continued before she started. I know women are often competitive when they go out and dress up to show off for each other. I understand that, but that's not really the reason you dress up like that. Tanya wrinkled her face in annoyance, but I calmly continued. So, you're going to a dance club? And I assume you're going to dance? I looked at her, and she tilted her head to the side, looking at me like a mother reprimanding her child. Well, of course, she answered. And you girls are going to dance with each other all night? She furrowed her eyebrows. I think she was a little nervous thinking about her answer. No. It would be silly to dress up and go to a fancy club to dance with your girlfriends, Tanya said. I nodded in agreement, my face as straight and guileless as I could make it. I was starting to get nervous, but I kept my cool. Arguing won't solve anything, I told myself and continued. Just as I thought. So of course you're going to want to dance with single guys at the club. Basically, you're going to dress up for the purpose of attracting men to ask you to dance. So since I won't be there because I'm not invited and you don't want me there, and you're hoping to dance with single men at the club, then we must conclude that you're not dressing up for me, but in hopes of making yourself attractive to strange men. The expression on her face lost a little of its confrontational look, and I could see some doubt creeping in. She started to protest, and I held up my hand. Please let me continue. I'll stay for a while, and then I'll sit and listen. I promise. And now I'm supposed to believe that a bachelorette party, like you say, is just innocent fun, girls from the office blowing off steam. Okay, everyone wants to relax once in a while, even me. But let me try to put it in perspective for you. Since it's a fancy dance club, I suspect that most of the single men and women will be under 20-30 years old. Oh, I'm sure there will be mature divorced women there, or even a mixed group of girls like yours, but it's safe to say that most of the women will be younger than you. I looked at her and kept her thoughts to myself. So, again, I'm not there because I wasn't invited, and you don't want me with you, and you want to dance, and you want to attract the best dance partner, so you're all dressed up and makeup and waiting. Like I said, since it's a club, most single men, like single women, will be younger, and the men will be there dancing too. I remember being younger and doing the same thing. Young men go to the club to meet young girls and maybe get serious, but you know that wouldn't be the case with you. I mean, a young man would immediately see that you're married by your rings, assuming you didn't take them off for fear of losing them. I would never, she started to say. I held out my hand. I'm sorry, dear, I'm almost done. Never what? I would never have suggested that you would do something like that. I'd hate to think you were planning some elaborate deception. No, I only mentioned it because I saw Ginny taking the rings off at a barbecue at Woods last summer. She noticed that I saw it and told me it was because she didn't want to lose them. Good thinking on her part, since her husband accidentally caught her putting her hands in Jeremy's shorts, so yes, if they had gotten caught on something, she could have lost them. So now you're accusing me of planning to cheat, Tanya spat out indignantly. I knew you'd just act like a cranky child over this. I'm not going to cheat, and I'm not going to change my mind. I'm just going to dance with some hot guys, and then I'm going to come back to you all excited. You'll feel it. I'll make it up to you when I get home, all hyped up with dancing and attention. It was my turn to look at her like a stupid child. I let the silence linger for a moment before I spoke again. So, I'm sure some young guys will ask you to dance. Look at you. You're beautiful. I always tell you that. So, of course, these young guys will make their way to you. She smiled, thinking she was making me jealous, and could somehow use that as an advantage. Like I said, I did pretty much the same thing when I was younger, but I was looking for someone for a long-term relationship, so I stuck to girls around my age. I would think that when a young man wants to ask you to dance, he would know that you're not a candidate for a long-term relationship. I mean, you're already wearing rings. She nodded vigorously, and I continued. And that's confirmation that you're married, and you're obviously older, beautiful, I added quickly. Decades older. But still, here you are. You're out there. You're out on your own. You're dressed to the hilt. You're smiling and accepting his proposal. Your husband must know and approve, or you wouldn't be here right now. So now he thinks you're fair game, that you're here to play, and that if he's good, maybe he can share the game and the enjoyment of it with you. What do you mean by play? That's insulting? I looked at her and my shoulders slumped. I raised my head to look at her questioningly. A guy looking for a victim for lovemaking will see that you're here to have fun, and he's just the guy to help you do it. But you're married, you're wearing rings, and that makes you immune to temptation. Her gaze darkened a little, but not with anger. Something else crept into it. I hoped I was being clear, and that maybe I was doing something right. So you're dancing, and he's charming, handsome, muscular, and fit. He compliments your dress, your hair, your dancing. He expresses his admiration that you are so liberated and responsible that you can do as you please. He might even give me a sort of compliment, you know. Something like, your husband must be so progressive, I know I wouldn't let you out of my sight if I were him. It's all designed to make you more at ease, compliant and receptive. But like I said, you're married and immune to temptation, right? Such harmless fun. You enjoy slow dancing and flirtatious conversations on the dance floor. Maybe he takes you to a dark corner of the club, suggesting you chill out and catch your breath, conveniently hidden from your nosy girlfriends, sure. You make it sound like I'm about to make love. I just want to dance. Tanya made that claim with dogged persistence. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying there's a chasm between us. Maybe not that big, but it's there. I know you're married and immune to the temptations of the dance club, but all the devil needs is a little bit of traction, and that gap is enough for him to drive a wedge between us. Tanya, I asked, when was the last time we made love? When was the last time we had a good date? It's not just me, she shot back. Someone might have given a little thought to what it takes to impress a lady. And what was the problem if I danced with a few nice young gentlemen? I was quiet again for a little longer, and then answered my own question. We had sex on Tuesday last week. Today is already Wednesday. When you first started turning me down, constantly telling me you were tired, and I felt bad that maybe I wasn't doing my fair share of housework. So I started helping out more around the house. I now do the dishes every night and cook a few times a week. I figured that if I took some of the burden off of you, you would be less tired. But so far it hasn't worked. But I've kept moving forward. Remember I mentioned that our local theater was going to present a premiere spring play? She nodded. I was hoping you'd be pleased when I mentioned it and want to go, but remember what you said? She lowered her eyes in silence. You said it was too much work to dress up, then get to the theater just to sit and watch the play, and that you'd already seen the movie and didn't see the need for it. All you wanted to do was lounge around at home and watch Netflix. I changed the subject, but what I didn't tell you was that I'd already bought 2 front-row tickets, made reservations at that fancy new Italian restaurant near the theater, and hired a limo to take us. I wanted to treat you to a great evening, but I had to cancel all reservations and give the tickets to Bob and Ellen. By the way, he told me they enjoyed the show and are both grateful to me for this wonderful gift. Her eyes clouded over. I'm doing everything I can to bridge the chasm, remove the rustling, and make us love our time together again. I may not be succeeding, but I'm not giving up. I started to choke and was afraid my voice would give me away, so I sat quietly for a while. When I thought I could trust myself, I walked on. So now you're out walking, dancing, chatting, and having a great time. You've been drinking. That's to be expected. And you probably drank a little more than usual. Again, not unexpected given the circumstances. Of course, you're too smart to accept a drink from a strange man. You know how easy it would be for someone to slip something in your drink. Her hand flew up to her mouth. I'm not saying this to scare you, but I want you to know, since I wouldn't have been there because I wasn't invited, and you didn't want me there, and since I wouldn't have been there to protect you, it makes me worry. Please don't take any of the drinks offered. This is just a bad idea. I turned around to maintain inertia. I could still lose it. So now you're dancing with a hot guy. Your words, not mine. Maybe he'll pull you closer to him, and you'll let his hand roam, squeeze lightly, touch your body gently. Maybe he'll touch your chest. Maybe after all the dancing, compliments, and casual contact, you'll really perk up. Of course, you're married and immune to temptation, so you leave your young dance partner behind, but he offers to take his number. You know he had so much fun dancing with you, and at the next bachelorette party, he'd like to do it again. Now she was looking at me intently. I think she was seething, and I was starting to worry about my promise to listen to her. But I was in it up to my ears, and all I could do was keep paddling. So it's 12:30, maybe 1 a.m., and you and the girls are ready to head home. Like you said, you're all fired up and heading home, ready to make it up to me. But it's late, and I'm worried. But more than that, I'm sad because you favor me over friends and strangers. So I couldn't sleep, and I'm sitting there, half watching TV, half watching the clock, my head a jumble of thoughts. And I must add, none of them were very pleasant. She didn't say anything, and I spoke without emotion, and didn't even look at her, just expressing the thoughts that were on my mind. And then you walk in, smelling of alcohol and cigarette smoke. You're horny, tipsy, maybe a little more than tipsy, and you burst into the room and expect me to go from an anxious wreck to a receptive lover just because you let some strange man rub up against you. I'll tell you now that I don't like that scenario, and if it happens, I think it will likely lead to angry words and cold coexistence for a while before leading to any lovemaking. I mean, what would be my motivation to make love to you? I asked. No, I think I would have been glad, of course, that you were home. But at the same time, I'm sure the pain would have been a real obstacle to making love. But it's all negative, and no one likes to dwell on the negative all the time, I said, looking straight at her. Let me paint a slightly different picture where you still dress up and let yourself show off to your girlfriends and even all the hot young men at the club. But the great thing about this version is the fun of the night ends closer to your vision. I proceeded to paint this picture for her. It's Friday night. You're dressed as best you can, so attractive that all the other women will just die of embarrassment when they see you. I walk you to our limo and our driver takes us to a club where we meet your girlfriends and their husbands or boyfriends. We dance. I compliment you on your dress, the way your hair looks on you. I touch your back and let my hand slide down to your little firm ass to gently squeeze it. As the night goes on, we find that our touching becomes more frequent. We laugh and dance and talk with friends, and then we go home in a groggy mood and make love, just like when we were first married. Sure, some might say I'm a bossy old man who's too insecure to let his beautiful wife go out alone, but I'm not. Not at all. I'm just a guy who loves his wife and can't think of anyone better to spend time with. I'm just a guy who would give up 20 nights out with friends for one date with his wife. I'm just a guy who wants to be there for his woman, show her love, respect, admiration, protect her from harm and keep her safe. She remained silent. Her mouth opened slightly and a tear appeared in the corner of her left eye. But most of all, I'm just a guy who hopes his wife loves him even half as much as he loves her. I'm just a guy who desperately hopes his wife will choose him. I had to stop again, because my voice was coming off, and I could feel the tears coming to my eyes despite my sternest efforts to chase them away. I exhaled loudly. Thank you for listening to me. Now it's your turn. And I sat quietly, waiting to see how she would react to my childish whining. She picked up her phone, pressed a button, and brought it to her ear. I had no idea what she was doing. Had I been so inexpressive in my speech that it made no impression? I felt like a failure when she spoke into the receiver. "Jeannie," she said into the receiver. My heart dropped. If she's calling Ginny for advice, things were probably going to get ugly. "It's me, Tanya." "No, it's okay." Yes, I told Tom exactly what was on my mind. Yes, Tom is good with Friday. I felt anger come up to me and my stomach clenched. She was openly rejecting me and my proposal. I felt like my marriage and my life were rolling down a slippery slope toward collapse. "I wanted to call to tell you that I'm bringing Tom to the dance with me on Friday." "Why?" "Because he's my husband, and I love him, and I want to spend as much time with him as possible. I see you at work every day." My heart nearly burst with pride as I listened to her half of the conversation. Now, why should I want to dance with some strange young guy when I have a better man? Yeah, for all my dances. I'll tell you what, Jeannie, it wouldn't be so bad if you asked Mike out too and stopped paying attention to all those flatterers you fawn over. When was the last time you two had a date? Yeah, I thought so. You better fix that. All it takes for the devil to ruin your marriage is a guy holding your ass. What are you going to tell the girls? Well, I'm going to call Linda myself and tell her that our boring bachelorette party just turned into date night and that we're rushing to get a limo. I'm going to tell her to dress to impress. I'm going to tell her that we're going to walk into this club with 4 of the hottest guys in town accompanying us and that we're going to make all the single girls turn green with envy. I'm going to tell her that I'm going to show my man how much I love him and how special he is to me. And then I'm going to tell her that we're going to make love all night when we get home. Now go invite Mike, and when you're done, call Sandy. Okay? Yeah, I'm glad we decided to include the boys too. Yeah, I know they're like little kids and would be lost without us. I'll see you at work tomorrow. No, I won't tell you what I'll be wearing, but I will tell you this. You'd better do your best if you don't want to be embarrassed. I intend to make Tom forget every other woman in the world on Friday. I'll see you at work. Bye. Tanya disconnected and headed for the stairs. She stopped about halfway up. Thank you for being so polite and listening to me. You did a better job than I did. Didn't interrupt once. I sat and looked at my beautiful wife. As hard as I tried, I couldn't keep the tears away, and 2 long, wet paths ran down my cheeks. When I looked at her face smiling back at me, I swear she was 25 again. I thought I was just going to burst with happiness. She headed toward our room again, but after 2 more steps, she stopped and turned to me. "When did you learn to read my mind?" she asked. I was silent for a long time. I knew you would ask that, was all I answered. The end! Subscribe to my channel. Thank you!